Story 1. I was having one of those busy weekends where everything needed to get done at once. My sister was getting married in 2 weeks, and I'd volunteered to help with decorations and party supplies. Between work deadlines and wedding planning, I'd been putting off this shopping trip for way too long. I threw on whatever was clean that morning: jeans, sneakers, and my favorite red hoodie from a college fundraiser 3 years ago. It's this comfortable cotton blend in bright red that I wear constantly during cooler weather. I grabbed my shopping list and headed to the big box store. The store was packed with weekend shoppers, and I spent about an hour gathering everything on my list: streamers, balloons, disposable plates, plastic tablecloths, and about 50 other things for the bridal shower. My cart was completely full by the time I made it to the self-checkout area. I picked an empty station and started scanning my items. The machine was being its usual finicky self, requiring approval for every other item. I was about halfway through when someone appeared next to me. This woman, probably in her 50s with an attitude that could be felt from across the store, started loading her items onto my checkout station. She had a cart full of groceries and was just dumping everything next to my half-scanned party supplies. "Excuse me, I'm using this station. There are open ones right over there," I said. "Don't be ridiculous. Just scan my stuff too. I don't have time for this," she replied. "Ma'am, I'm not an employee. I'm a customer doing my own shopping." "Very funny. You're wearing the red shirt, so stop playing games and do your job." I looked down at my hoodie and realized what had happened. The store employees do wear red shirts as part of their uniform, but my hoodie was clearly different. It had my college logo and was obviously not a work uniform. "This is just my personal hoodie. I don't work here. You need to use your own checkout station." "I don't care what your excuse is. I'm a customer, and you need to help me. Start scanning my groceries now." She continued loading her items onto my station, completely ignoring my protests. Some of her stuff was pushing my items around, and I was worried my party supplies would get damaged. "Please stop putting your items on my station. I told you I don't work here." "Don't tell me what to do. You're being paid to help customers, so help me." "Look, I'm wearing jeans and sneakers. The employees wear khakis and black shoes. This is my personal clothing." "I don't care what you're wearing on bottom. Red shirt means you work here. Now scan my groceries or I'm getting your manager." At this point, other customers were staring. Her voice was getting louder and more aggressive, and I was getting genuinely uncomfortable. "Ma'am, you're welcome to get a manager. They'll explain that I'm not an employee." "Fine, don't move. I'm getting someone to deal with your attitude." She stormed off toward customer service, leaving all her groceries scattered across my checkout station. I tried to move her items aside, but there was so much that I could barely find space. A few minutes later, she returned with a tired-looking manager. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked. "This employee is refusing to do her job. She won't scan my groceries, and she's being incredibly rude. I demand you fire her immediately." The manager looked at me, then at her, then back at me. I could see the exact moment he realized what was happening. "Ma'am, this person doesn't work here. She's a customer." "That's impossible. She's wearing red." "Our employees wear red polo shirts with the store logo, black pants, and name tags. This customer is wearing a college hoodie and jeans." I tried to explain that to her, but she wouldn't listen. "She's been loading her groceries onto my checkout station and demanding I scan them," I added. "This is ridiculous. How was I supposed to know she doesn't work here? She should have been clearer." "Ma'am, when someone tells you they don't work somewhere, you should believe them," the manager replied. "Well, she should have helped me anyway. What kind of customer service is that?" "The kind where customers aren't required to provide service to other customers." The manager started looking at the mess of groceries she'd spread across my checkout area. Her items were everywhere: frozen goods probably starting to thaw, produce rolling around loose, packages torn open. "Ma'am, you'll need to gather your items and check out properly." "I'm not doing anything. She created this mess by refusing to help me. You created this mess by harassing another customer and abandoning your groceries. I want to speak to your district manager. This is unacceptable customer service. Ma'am, you've been verbally harassing one of our customers, disrupted the checkout area, and left perishable items unattended. I need you to either complete your purchase immediately or leave the store. You can't tell me what to do. I spend hundreds of dollars here every month. Not anymore, you don't. He called for security over his radio and started gathering up her abandoned groceries. Ma'am, you're being banned from this location for harassment of other customers and disruptive behavior. Security will escort you out. You can't ban me. I didn't do anything wrong. She's the one who wouldn't help me. She had no obligation to help you. You mistook her for an employee. She corrected you politely, and you chose to continue harassing her. Security arrived 2 officers who looked like they'd dealt with this exact situation before. The woman tried to argue with them too, insisting the whole thing was my fault. Ma'am, you need to leave the premises immediately. If you return, you'll be arrested for trespassing, one officer said. This is discrimination. I'm calling corporate. You're welcome to do that from outside the store. They escorted her out while she continued yelling about customer service. The manager stayed behind to help me sort through the mess. I'm so sorry about that. Some people just can't admit when they're wrong, he said. It's not your fault. I've never had someone be so aggressive about a simple misunderstanding. He helped me separate my items from her abandoned groceries and even gave me a discount as an apology for the harassment. The whole process that should have taken 5 minutes ended up taking 30 minutes. So not only did her entitled behavior get her banned from the store, but she also lost all the groceries she'd spent an hour shopping for. She left empty-handed and prohibited from returning, all because she couldn't accept being politely corrected about a simple mistake. Story 2. I've been organizing charity fundraisers for 8 years now, ever since my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She beat it, thankfully, but going through that experience made me realize how desperately cancer research needs funding. So every year, I organize a big auction event to raise money for the American Cancer Society. This whole mess started when my aunt decided to donate something really special to this year's auction. She's been quilting for over 30 years and makes absolutely gorgeous handmade quilts that usually sell for $800 to $1,200 in craft shops. She spent 4 months working on this particular quilt, a king-size piece with intricate floral patterns in blues and greens. The craftsmanship was incredible, with thousands of tiny stitches all done by hand. When she told me she wanted to donate it to the auction, I almost cried. This wasn't just any quilt, this was museum-quality work that she was giving up to help cancer research. We estimated it would probably bring in at least $1,000 for the charity. The auction was held at our local community center on a Saturday night in October. We had about 150 people there, and the energy was amazing. When we got to the quilt, I made sure to explain how much work had gone into it and what a generous donation it was. The bidding started at $200 and quickly went up. Several people were interested, but this one woman in her 40s kept outbidding everyone else. She was dressed expensively and seemed really determined to win it. The bidding went back and forth until she finally won at $1,350, way more than we'd hoped for. After the auction ended, she came up to pay and collect her quilt. I was so excited about the amount she'd bid. Thank you so much for your generous bid. This will make such a difference for cancer research, I said. Well, it's absolutely beautiful. It'll look perfect in my guest bedroom, she replied. She paid with a check and carefully took the quilt. Everything seemed great. Then, 3 days later, she called me. Hi, this is the woman who bought the quilt at your auction. I need to return it. Return it? Is there something wrong with it? It doesn't match my furniture. The colors are all wrong for my guest room. I need a full refund. I was confused. She'd had plenty of time to look at the quilt during the auction preview. I'm sorry, but this was a charity auction. All sales are final. That was clearly stated in all our materials. That's ridiculous. I spent over $2,300 on this thing, and it doesn't even match my decor. Any decent business would offer returns. This isn't a business, it's a charity fundraiser. The money has already been donated to cancer research. We can't take it back. Well, then you'll just have to eat the cost yourself. I'm bringing this quilt back tomorrow, and I expect my money back. She hung up before I could respond. The next day, she showed up at my house with a quilt. I could see through the window that she had it bundled up, and it looked different somehow. When I opened the door, I could see why. The quilt was completely ruined. There were stains all over it, what looked like coffee or wine, and several seams had been ripped. It looked like someone had deliberately damaged it. "Here's your precious quilt back. Now where's my refund?" she demanded. "What did you do to it? This quilt was perfect when you took it home." I tried to make it work in my guest room, but the colors were just too hideous. Some stains happened while I was trying to see if it would look better. These things happen. I was horrified. My aunt had put months of work into this beautiful piece, and this woman had destroyed it in 3 days. "You've completely ruined a handmade work of art. There's no way we're refunding your donation to charity." "Fine. If you won't give me my money back, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of scam operation you're running." She stormed off, leaving the destroyed quilt on my doorstep. 2 days later, I started getting calls from friends asking about reviews they'd seen online. She had posted 1-star reviews everywhere: Google, Facebook, Better Business Bureau, even Yelp. The review was brutal. "Scam charity auction. Spent $1,350 on a so-called handmade quilt that was cheaply made and fell apart within days. When I tried to return defective merchandise, they refused to refund my donation. Avoid this fake charity." Then she sent me an email threatening to sue me for fraud, false advertising, and emotional distress unless I refunded her money within 48 hours. I was so angry I could barely think straight. This woman had donated money to cancer research, deliberately destroyed a beautiful handmade quilt, and was now trying to bully me into giving back money that had already gone to charity. I decided to fight back. I gathered all my documentation, photos of the quilt before and after, copies of our auction materials clearly stating sales were final, screenshots of her nasty reviews, and her threatening email. Then I took her to small claims court. I sued her for the full value of the destroyed quilt, $1,350 plus court costs. My aunt agreed to testify about the time and materials that went into making it, and I had several witnesses from the auction. The court date was about 6 weeks later. She showed up with a folder full of papers, clearly thinking she had a strong case. "This appears to be a dispute over a charity auction purchase. Can you explain what happened?" the judge asked. I presented my case first, showing photos of the beautiful quilt before and after, explaining the charity auction format, and documenting her threats and harassment. Then it was her turn. "Your Honor, I was the victim of fraud. This woman sold me defective merchandise and refused to provide a refund when the product fell apart." "Ma'am, this was a charity auction, correct? You bid on and won this quilt?" "Yes, but they didn't tell me it was cheaply made and would fall apart. I'm looking at these photos of the quilt before you took it home. It appears to be in perfect condition. Can you explain how it became damaged?" "Well, I was trying to see if it would work in my room, and there were some accidents." "What kind of accidents result in coffee stains and ripped seams across an entire quilt?" "I don't remember exactly. The point is, the quilt was defective and didn't match my furniture." The judge looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Ma'am, furniture matching is not grounds for returning a charity auction purchase. And based on these photos, it's clear you deliberately damaged this quilt after taking it home." He ruled in my favor for the full amount plus court cost, $1,485 total. He also warned her that filing false reviews about a charity could potentially result in additional legal action. She never appealed. 2 weeks later, she quietly removed all her negative reviews and sent me a check for the full amount. But the best part came about a month later. I got a call from a woman I'd never met who had heard about what happened at the court hearing. "I'd like to donate $5,000 to your cancer research fundraiser." What that woman did was appalling, and I want to make sure her actions result in more money for cancer research, not less. The donor became a regular supporter, and we've raised over $15,000 for cancer research thanks to her continued generosity. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting entitled people face the natural consequences of their actions, while good people step up to make things right. Story 3. I hate the DMV as much as the next person, but sometimes you just have to deal with it. My driver's license was expiring in 2 weeks, and I'd been putting off the renewal for way too long. I knew it was going to be a nightmare, but I figured if I got there early enough, maybe I could get through it without losing my entire day. This particular trip was crucial because I had a huge client presentation scheduled for later that afternoon, potentially my biggest contract ever as a freelance graphic designer. I couldn't reschedule either appointment, so I was cutting it close. I arrived at 7 in the morning, standing outside with about 30 other people who had the same idea. When they opened at 8, I took number 23. The board showed they were serving number 3, so I knew I was in for a long wait. That's when she walked in. This woman, probably in her 40s, strutted through the door like she owned the place. She was dressed expensively, carrying a designer purse, and had that look that said she thought she was better than everyone else. She looked around at all of us, waiting with visible disgust. She walked up to the number machine and pulled ticket number 67. The board was still showing number 5. I watched her check her ticket, then the board, and could practically see the wheels turning. She walked around the waiting area for a few minutes, checking her phone and sighing loudly like she wanted everyone to notice how inconvenienced she was. Then she made her move. She walked right up to the front counter where a clerk was helping someone. "Excuse me, I need help immediately. I have a medical emergency." "I'm diabetic, and my blood sugar is dropping dangerously low. I need to get my license renewed right now so I can get to the pharmacy for my insulin." Everyone could hear this conversation, and people started looking worried. A few even offered to let her cut in line. "Ma'am, if you're having a medical emergency, maybe you should call 911 or have someone drive you to get your insulin." No, I just need to get this done quickly so I can take care of myself. I have very important appointments today that I cannot miss." The clerk looked uncertain, but before she could respond, the woman turned to the waiting area and scanned the crowd. Her eyes landed on me. You look like a decent person. Can you please let me have your spot in line? I really need to get out of here." I looked up from my book, completely taken aback. "I'm sorry, but I've been here since 7 this morning. I have an important meeting this afternoon too." "This is a medical emergency. Don't you have any compassion? If it's really a medical emergency, you should go to a hospital, not the DMV. I know what I need better than you do. I just need someone decent enough to help me out." She was getting louder, and other people were staring. The clerk came over. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" "Yes, this person is refusing to help someone having a medical crisis." I stood up, feeling my face getting hot. "I'm not refusing to help anyone. I'm just saying that if you're really having a medical emergency, you should seek medical attention, not try to cut in line at the DMV. I told you what I need. I need to renew my license so I can drive to the pharmacy." "But you just drove here, didn't you? If you can drive here, you can drive to a pharmacy." She paused for just a split second, and I could see I'd caught her in her logic trap. "My blood sugar is dropping by the minute. Every second you waste arguing with me is putting my life in danger." Now she was really putting on a show, fanning herself and leaning against the wall like she might faint. A supervisor approached. "What's going on here?" The clerk explained while the woman continued her dramatic performance, claiming she was feeling dizzy. "Ma'am, when did you arrive today?" the supervisor asked. "About 20 minutes ago, but that's not the point. I have a medical condition." "And when did this medical emergency start?" "Right after I got here and saw how long the line was." Several people in the waiting area exchanged glances. She just basically admitted that her emergency started when she realized she'd have to wait like everyone else. "Ma'am, I'm going to check our security cameras to see exactly what happened when you arrived." Her face went completely white. "You don't need to do that. I'm telling you what happened. It'll just take a minute." He walked over to a computer terminal and started clicking through camera feeds. She stood there fidgeting, her whole demeanor suddenly changing from medical emergency victim to someone caught in a lie. After a few minutes, he returned. "Ma'am, our cameras show you walking into the building normally, taking a number, checking your ticket, and then spending several minutes walking around looking frustrated before approaching the counter with your medical emergency claim." "The cameras don't show everything. I was trying to hide my symptoms." "The cameras also show you checking your phone, rolling your eyes at other customers, and sighing dramatically. That doesn't look like someone having a medical emergency." "They also show her driving into the parking lot just fine 30 minutes ago," I added. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to return to your original place in line, which was number 67. This is discrimination. You can't prove I wasn't having an emergency." "Ma'am, faking a medical emergency to cut in line is not only dishonest, it's also disruptive to our operations and unfair to other customers who have been waiting patiently. I want to speak to your manager." "I am the manager, and I'm calling security." Security showed up within minutes. After hearing the situation, they wrote her a citation for disorderly conduct and disruption of government services while she continued protesting her innocence. The whole waiting room broke into applause as she was escorted to the back of the line. I got called for my appointment about an hour later and was out in 20 minutes. As I left, I could see her still sitting in the back section, looking miserable. The board showed number 43, meaning she still had 20 people ahead of her. I made it to my client presentation with time to spare and got the contract worth over $50,000. I found out later that she tried to fight the citation in court, claiming she really had been having a medical emergency. But the judge watched the DMV security footage and upheld the fine. She had to pay $250 and do 8 hours of community service at the local hospital emergency room, helping real patients with actual medical emergencies. Story 4. I've lived in Maple Grove subdivision for 12 years now. It's a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets where people wave when they walk by and help each other with groceries. My cat Oliver has been part of our family for 14 years, an orange tabby who loves to patrol the neighborhood and sun himself in various gardens. Everyone knows Oliver. He's gentle, friendly, and has never caused problems. Oliver wears a collar with our address and phone number, is microchipped, vaccinated, and has regular vet checkups. He's never been aggressive, never used anyone's garden as a bathroom, and mostly just likes to lie in sunny spots and watch the world go by. That peaceful routine changed 6 months ago when Karen moved into the house at the end of our street. She immediately made it clear that she had very specific ideas about how the neighborhood should operate. Within her first week, she'd complained to 3 different neighbors about their lawn maintenance, mailbox colors, and kids riding bikes on the sidewalk. Karen also had a large German Shepherd that she never kept on a leash. The dog would run freely around the neighborhood, digging in flower beds, leaving waste on lawns, and occasionally chasing joggers. When neighbors mentioned the leash law, Karen dismissed them, saying her dog needed exercise and fresh air. The first incident with Oliver happened on a Tuesday morning. I let him out for his usual patrol, and when he didn't come home by dinner time, I started to worry. Oliver always came home by sunset. I walked around the neighborhood calling his name, asking neighbors if they'd seen him. Finally, around 9 o'clock, I heard faint meowing from Karen's backyard. I knocked on her door. "Excuse me, I think my cat might be in your yard somewhere." He's been missing all day. Oh, you mean the orange stray that was destroying my flower beds? I trapped it this afternoon. That's not a stray, that's my cat Oliver. He lives 2 houses down, and he's wearing a collar with my phone number. Well, he shouldn't be on my property. I don't care whose cat it is. She led me to her backyard where I found Oliver in a metal cage trap, looking scared and confused. The poor old guy had been stuck there for hours. You can't just trap people's pets. This cat has lived in this neighborhood longer than you have. I can do whatever I want on my own property. If you can't control your animal, maybe you shouldn't have one. I took Oliver home, but the experience had clearly stressed him out. He was more cautious about going outside after that. 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time I found Oliver within an hour because I'd learned to check Karen's backyard first. She had 3 different cage traps set up around her property. This has to stop. You're trapping people's pets for no reason. Those cats are trespassing and damaging my garden. I have every right to protect my property. Oliver doesn't damage anything. He just lies in sunny spots. And he's clearly not feral, he's wearing a collar and tags. I don't care. Keep your cat off my property, or I'll call animal control next time. I reported the trapping to our homeowners association, but nothing seemed to change. The third incident escalated quickly. Karen didn't just trap Oliver this time, she called animal control before I even knew he was missing. The animal control officer showed up at my door on a Saturday morning. We received a report about a feral cat that's been trapped at a residence on your street. The caller said it might belong to someone in the area. That's my cat Oliver. He's definitely not feral. Where is he? I followed the officer to Karen's house, where she was waiting with a smug expression. Oliver was in the trap again, looking miserable. This feral cat has been terrorizing my garden for months. It's aggressive and clearly diseased. I want it removed from the neighborhood immediately. He examined Oliver, who immediately started purring when handled. This is definitely not a feral cat. He's friendly, healthy, and obviously socialized. Well, he shouldn't be allowed to roam freely. There should be leash laws for cats. There are no leash laws for cats in this county. However, I'm concerned about these traps. Do you have permits for them? Permits? I don't need permits to protect my own property. Actually, you do need permits to use cage traps in a residential area, especially when you're trapping owned animals. This could be considered theft or animal endangerment. Karen's confident expression started to falter. As we walked around Karen's backyard, the officer counted 6 different cage traps positioned around the perimeter of her property. This is excessive and illegal without proper permits. I'm going to have to issue citations for unlawful trapping and for making false reports about a feral animal. This is ridiculous. Those cats are destroying my garden. Ma'am, I don't see any evidence of garden damage. Your flower beds look pristine. The officer wrote out 2 tickets and confiscated all of Karen's traps. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood about Karen's citations. Several other neighbors came forward with stories of their cats being trapped, and a few mentioned that Karen's unleashed dog had been causing problems too. The HOA called an emergency meeting the following week. The room was packed with angry pet owners and concerned residents. We've received multiple complaints about unauthorized animal trapping and also about an unleashed dog running freely through the neighborhood, the HOA president announced. Karen stood up to defend herself. I was just trying to protect my property from destructive animals. Meanwhile, everyone ignores the fact that cats are killing birds and using gardens as litter boxes. Your dog dug up my entire rose bed last month, said one neighbor. And he's chased my kids off the sidewalk 3 times, added another. My cat was trapped 4 times. She's 15 years old and arthritic. The stress was making her sick, said a third. After reviewing the situation, the board implemented new pet policies. All dogs must be leashed when outside their owner's property, with strict enforcement and fines for violations. That's not fair. My dog needs exercise and freedom, Karen protested. The court hearing for Karen's citations was scheduled for the following month. I attended as a witness, along with several other pet owners whose cats had been trapped. The judge was not impressed with Karen's defense. You trapped 6 different owned animals over 2 months without permits, and then made false reports claiming they were feral. By violating other people's property rights and wasting government resources, I'm fining you the maximum amount for unlawful trapping and false reporting. You're also required to complete community service at the county animal shelter. The fines totaled over $800. Within 2 months, Karen had received 3 citations from the HOA for having her dog off leash. Each violation came with a $50 fine, and after the 3rd offense, she was warned that further violations could result in a lien on her property. The best part came when I was walking Oliver on his leash. Yes, I decided to leash train my elderly cat just to make a point, and we passed Karen walking her German Shepherd on a leash, looking absolutely miserable. "This is all your fault," she said. "I'm just following the HOA rules, same as everyone else." The other neighbors started referring to the new pet policy as Karen's Law, which irritated her to no end. 6 months later, she put her house up for sale and moved to a different subdivision. Oliver lived peacefully for another year, spending his golden days napping in sunny spots around the neighborhood without fear of being trapped. Sometimes people who try to control everyone else end up being controlled themselves.